Yeah. Okay, hi everybody. This is one of the main reasons why Spring Lake Schools is so great. It's like you invite parents to support their children, and they do. So that's incredible. Thank you so much for being here. On behalf of Mrs. Henry, Mrs. Przybylski, who is my student teacher into this spring, and myself, I'm Mr. Toomey. There are quite a few of you I don't know. Just welcome to our semi-formal reading. It's such a nice experience. Before I kind of talk about why we need you, I thought I'd just read a little piece of writing. And when I say little, I really mean it. It's 6 words long. So I told one of the forms of writing we did were 6-word memoirs, just telling the life story in 6 words. And you might hear a couple of those tonight. But here are my 6 words about tonight. Students write honestly, need audience now. It gets tiring in a class to write and write and write, and finally it's like, you know, what are we doing with this? What are we doing with this? And so what we're doing with it is right here. So thank you again for being in attendance. It's kind of like imagine you were doing all your football practice and never played a game, or if you were rehearsing for the musical but then never performed it for people. That's kind of how I look at writing too. If we just practice and we never get to share, and we never get to celebrate, then it's nice to celebrate. So thanks for celebrating with us. Okay, really, we're moving on. Covered the cover art, so you see it was a collaborative effort between both classes. It started with a blank sheet of paper, and we said, draw anything, anywhere, and see what happens. And so you can interpret that however you like. And but there's a lot going on, so you can kind of see maybe the students' views of what they bring to class. It's pretty fascinating. So students, just some nuts and bolts. We're not going to have I'm not going to come up. No one's going to come up. Please just transition yourselves, students. The students have a 1 to 3 minute reading, and then they'll just swap out. So if you're kind of on deck, just students, please be ready and jump up here as quickly as you can so that we can keep the evening rolling. And I think that's it. Alexis, you get the privilege of starting us off. I know you're so happy about that. Again, thanks everybody. And at the end of the night, hopefully we can chat just a little bit.
Okay, so this is a piece that I wrote called Time. Time, a gift we are blessed with at birth. A gift that is not boxed and wrapped with a bow, but boxed into our minds and wrapped up in our life. A gift we don't want to throw away or return, as it is not refundable. A gift we can give away to other people though, but learn the hard will be running out. Your gift is snatched out from underneath you, but the scariest part of all is that it stops when it wants to. It has made up its mind. It gives off its warning signs to some, but to others it disappears before their eyes. And before you know it, the days you couldn't wait to end, you're wishing you met back.
Hi, this is a writing piece that I kind of threw together. It was like a bunch of poems that I wrote to my boyfriend, so these are like epic, I think. Anyways, I know not of the when, why, or how. I just know it's you. You're my captivation. Plant your roots next to mine. Let our roots snake together. Hush. Watch as we grow, stronger than a tree trunk, yet more delicate than a flower. You are my foundation. Let my melancholy heart wake my melancholy heart like a cup of coffee. Soothe my anxieties, identical to tea. You are my warmth. It is the things that lie inside, the thoughts, dreams that create you, that lock me to you. You are my key. In the darkest part of the middle of the night, I need you the most. You're my ease. Your fingers indent, pinch, and mark, leaving only dimples and goosebumps left behind. You are my bliss. Back against the wall, my legs around your waist, and with a soft, feathery touch, I kiss you again. You hold my heart. You are exactly, precisely what I waited for. You are my worth. All that we have endured will make us invincible. From the fire brings us strength. You are my rock. You will never feel, not for a single moment, that I don't love you, for you are the only, you will always be the only, and there are no others. You were made for me. I want to love you so unapologetically and so filled with promise. Okay, so this is just some poems that are outdoor themes. So, nighttime. Darkness cloaks the sky, streetlights flicker on. Bird silhouettes fly by, headlights appear neon. Streetlights flicker on, stars twinkle and shine. Headlights appear neon, hyenas in the distance whine. Stars twinkle and shine, the moon hangs overhead. Hyenas in the distance whine, while morning lies ahead. The moon hangs overhead, the crickets and cicadas sing. While morning lies ahead, night is still in full swing. The crickets and cicadas sing, bird silhouettes fly by. Night is still in full swing, darkness cloaks the sky. And then this one is what's called winter, it's haiku. Snow covers the ground, skiing, sledding, ice skating, Christmas time is near. And spring, flowers bloom and grow, raindrops fall heavily down, animals wake up. Summer, beach balls thrown around, sun beats down on beachgoers, go swim to cool down. In fall, everything is crisp, leaves scattered on the sidewalk, school is in session.
Who do we have next?
Not sure if she's here. I don't think
Oh, maybe. Is Ashlyn here? Not here. So I guess we skipped a Bella.
Bell.
Yeah. I'm going to just lower this a little bit. What these students are doing is not easy, so we'll try to get the microphone to amp them up.
All right, these are movie posters redone in honor of the presidential race. So 10 things I hate about you becomes 10 things Jeb hates about Trump. Sleepless in Seattle becomes Sleepy in DC. Jaws becomes Bernie. Almost Famous becomes Almost President. You've Got Mail stays You've Got Mail, starring Clinton. And Star Wars The Force Awakens becomes Presidential Force. Coming to a theater near you, November 2017.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll actually talk in the microphone for you. So, all right. He wore a red helmet. His shoelaces were flying in the wind. Cards were woven in his spokes. The front tire was flat. His shoelaces were flying in the wind. Tinsel hung from his handlebars. The front tire was flat. The sky was blue. Tinsel hung from his handlebars. Hair flew from under his helmet. The sky was blue. People watched him from the curb. Hair flew from his head. He didn't have a helmet on anymore. The kid on the bicycle hit the ground.
You press the, yes, and then you got it.
Okay, this is about my dog, and it's called For the Love of Claudes. Oh, for the love of Claudes, where is she now? It must be 12:30 by now. And still, she's not home, nor has she bothered to call on the phone. Staring at the street below, wondering when she'll show. Sometimes I wonder what she thinks of me. Does she dwell over the shoe I chewed, or the carpet with the pea? Sometimes I wonder if we are still we. Our younger years have passed so long, perhaps she wished that I was gone. I've sat here waiting since he left. She left, my nose against the window pressed. What did I do to make her leave? Perhaps she has forgotten me. My life has consisted of waiting and staying, sitting, tricking, and walking and playing. Did I not sit? Did I not stay? Is she not here because I misbehaved? Oh wait, I think I missed her headlights. Clunk, clunk, clunk. I turn around. I can't hear, but can only feel the familiar pound. Chester, I'm home, she yells, as I run to her side. You need to go potty. Did you ring your bell? That's the thing about me and the fact I'm a pooch. No matter what she does, I'll give her a smooch. I'll always love her. She's my best friend. I know she will be with me until my life ends. She sits in the chair and pulls me up close. I can't hear the voice that I miss the most. I lick her goodnight before I must go. I know this is the last time by the window. I rest my sleepy eyes and slowly fall asleep. And for the love of Claudes, in my heart I'll keep.
So this is Tiny Hippo. I found a picture and just continued from the picture. Tiny has said a lot, so Tiny Hippo had not very much in his tiny life. He did have a tiny train, his favorite toy. It was a gift from his tiny mother before she moved away. He took his tiny train everywhere. One sunny afternoon, Tiny Hippo was out playing in the tiny field when Tiny Raven swooped down and stole the tiny train. Tiny Raven liked the tiny train and wanted it. This really pissed off Tiny Hippo. So he walked through the tiny valley, over the tiny hill, across the tiny river, and through the tiny forest. He got to his tiny house, walked in his tiny living room, opened his tiny gun rack. He loaded and grabbed his tiny shotgun. Tiny Hippo was ready to go hunt down Tiny Raven and get his tiny train back. He adventures back to the tiny valley. He looks around for Tiny Raven, but he is nowhere to be seen. He needs to check his nest. He crosses the valley and heads towards the tiny tree. Once he arrives at the tiny tree with Tiny Raven's tiny nest, Tiny Hippo looks up at the tiny nest. Tiny Raven was just chilling, playing with the tiny train. Tiny Hippo fires a warning shot up in the air. Tiny Raven knew it was up. He should just give up the tiny train and there would be no problems. He was stubborn and wasn't going to give it up. It was his now, he got it fair and square. Tiny Hippo was fed up with Tiny Raven, he was being a turd. Tiny Hippo starts up the tree, he points his shotgun at Tiny Raven, then towards the tiny train. Tiny Raven knew his time was up and he knew to give up the tiny train. He kicked the tiny train over. Tiny Raven pulls out his tiny pistol, and Tiny Hippo blows his chest open with a 12-gauge buckshot. Tiny Hippo grabs the tiny train and rolls. Ain't no one Jack from Tiny Hippo. No one.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Should be
Okay.
good.
So maybe
Go
she'll
next
be,
one.
I will catch up. So fit.
Okay, this is something I actually wrote for my college essay, but I liked how it turned out, so now I'm reading it here. If there was some sort of omnipotent dealer of fate, you have to wonder how much satisfaction they get from their job. As they bridge the cards that would determine an awaiting life's beginnings between their hands, does a smug grin twist this being's face? Do tired wrinkles deface its features as a sigh exudes from a sullen frown? Is any guilt felt on behalf of the child that emerges into the world only to have their own body rebel and force them to depart the stage before the first act is done? I was never dealt the cystic fibrosis card, nor was I inflicted with the poverty or even the born at the wrong time in the wrong place card. No, when I was ferried into this world, voice strained into a caterwaul as I was held in the arms of my healthy, educated, middle-class parents. No one looked beyond the surface of those tangible factors. Harmonious to such preoccupation with physicality is the tunnel vision with which I was affixed the label female with a simple glance. This was applied to not to just my body, but every behavior that was expected of me. However, one of my cards had shrouded itself under the camouflage of the rest, smoldering as it waited to be unveiled. Wearing the spectacles of hindsight, it seems utterly absurd that anyone actually believed my diagnosis of femininity. I'd been a wolf in sheep's clothing howling itself hoarse. At the fresh age of 3, I systematically denied all things that were associated with girls until my parents reached an undeclared agreement with me. No dolls, dresses, princesses, or otherwise pink and frilly things. She's such a tomboy, they concluded, as I bristled when one of my classmates had the audacity to infer that I was a girl. Yet, for all my defiance, my identity was drowned under the sea of society's assumption, and I was left to thrash in the disorienting waves created as my very existence clashed with them. It wasn't until a few months before my 15th birthday that I saw the word transgender for the first time. I had finally identified the name of the hurricane that could unbalance my thoughts and spin them into a cyclone of dysphoria and self-loathing. While the anxiety that came with sparring against an unknown saboteur was relieved, a fear of the common threats took its place. Still, I knew my enemy and began to formulate tactics for my counterattack. This shadow that had infiltrated my brain danced about my mind was society. It was ignorance. It was my body, but it was also my mind. Not all battles are won with violence. My greatest weapon in this world behind my face was acceptance. An acceptance of myself. I shook hands with the dog pulse of my thoughts in a gesture of peace, looking it in the eye with understanding. Sometimes it becomes restless and will flare up. Join these times family, not always a blood relation, but wade through the river of mud with me just as they had during my most trying moments. Subduing my demons is no longer a struggle that can determine life and death as it was before, though. I've withstood pain and overcome it and found my heart stronger. Such strength should not be used only to benefit oneself. It is best employed in helping others. With myself as an example, I hope to show those who are going through the same ordeals as I have that they can move forward. You can always move forward.
Hi, I'm Haley, and I'm gonna be reading two pieces that I've wrote like during the trimester. And the first one is called "Can We Change the World?" I know global warming cannot be fixed or things everyone has suffered. We can make a change in someone's life. We can do good for those around us and give food to those in impoverished nations, help those in the hood to not become a statistic. I want to say you were put here for a reason, to do good with the hands you're blessed to have, to walk miles with your legs and feet, sharing smiles with those you meet. And this is rescue. Rescue. I brought you in so you wouldn't die, your dirty fur and missing eye. They kicked you in the teeth one day, your frail bones flaunt you on display. You shiver and your paws curl in, your ruptured life, your morale stick thin. But I got you in the nick of time, they told me you can barely climb. But alas, I'm here, you're here now, and as you get better, we'll become best friends.
So this is a poem about me. It's called It's Just Me. Happiness is inside me. Around me, I'll find creativity. Near or far, I am able to wonder and learn. Never lying, choosing what's best for me. Anyone can choose to be inspired. Handling my life would be a mess though. Making people smile and laugh, there is no seriousness. At home and with friends and with the people I love. Relying on the ones closest to my heart. Everyone goes through a rough patch once or twice. Eventually things will settle and clear for the best. Joy, hope, trust, compassion, honesty, and love. Once the realization of going into the real world sets in, nothing will matter. I need to know this person inside. Everyone will judge, but I don't care. Someday I'll figure out where I need my life to be.
Hi, my name's Jessica, and this story is like a play, so like written. It's called The Story That Talks. Narrator waits for a reader. Is on stage and starts talking. Hello. Yeah, you're probably wondering where the story is, correct? Well, there isn't one. So why am I here? You may be asking. Well, I'm here to humor you. Why am I here to do that? Anyways, you, reader, walks out on stage and points to the reader. Reader, me? Acts confused. Narrator, yes, you. Who else is reading this? A dead person? Says sarcastically. Unless you are a dead person, then that means, oh gosh, zombies have taken over the world! Screams out while reader rolls eyes. Reader pauses for a sec, and then says line, looking at narrator. I'm not dead though. Narrator. Oh, but are you sure you're not just some skeleton with a conscience lost in his or her way? Reader. But why in the world would you think I'm a skeleton? Stares at narrator while waiting for a reply. Narrator. Well, says nervously. Reader. Are you brain dead or just a numbskull? Narrator. Hey! Says in a whining voice. Reader laughs. I can't help it. You walked right into that one. Narrator, wow, aren't we especially punny today? Chuckles. Reader, slowly starts to close the book. Well, if there's no story, then I guess I'll just leave. Pauses while narrator interrupts. Hey, whoa, hold the book. There is a story. Reader, crosses arms and is waiting. Okay, well, what is this story about? Are you going to tell me, or are you going to make me search? This is the only page that has anything written on it in this story. And whoever is writing this, well, I don't know. Maybe they can help us? Narrator. Both look around. If they won't talk, then maybe we can create them somehow? Here is the next line. This should be them. Writer, doesn't say anything. Doesn't say anything. Reader says, What now? How is that supposed to help us, Mr. I'm a wizard and do things? Narrator, well, excuse me, Mr. I'm so smart. Writer, oh, would you two just shut up? And I'm trying to think. Narrator and reader both look at each other in confusion. Reader, so you can talk. Narrator looks at reader. Of course they can talk, you imbecile. What else would they tell us to? Hey! Writer looks at both the reader and narrator. I got it.
My name is Jocelyn, and I wrote a piece about art. It's called What is Art? The dictionary describes art as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Honestly, it is so much more. Art is like a doorway into another person's mind they can't express with words. Art is something you can see in a completely different way than anybody else. Art is much more than a painting or a drawing. Art is the waves hitting the shore being captured in the perfect way. Art is deeper than it seems, relating to your life in the most wondrous way. Art is a vulnerable writing piece. Art is captivating the intricate coloration of the most vibrant sunset. Art is the expression into another person's thoughts, unique and imaginative. Art is your mind, complex and mysterious. Not everybody understands it, but it's still beautiful.
Hi, I'm Catherine Bruno. I did a 6-word memoir about my life, my cat's life, and my life. First, I just want to say that I chose it because I think it's beautiful that you can capture life in a moment in just a few words. Weird girl, ugly girl, strong girl. Didn't want the party to end. Beef is food of the devil. Was stupid, so became funny. Thought I would be shorter. Grew too fast. Thought too young. Found myself happier alone. Sorry, Mom. I heard comedy has no rules. Can't find love like my cats. English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, what's next? Only God could save this soul. And then this is my cat's life. Furry, how did I get here? Eat, sleep, poop in Catherine's room. Too fat to care about anything. Named Carrot, shaped like a pumpkin. Ask me again after my nap. Sleep while you work all day. And then this is my mother's life. Dad lost life, Mom lost mine. After children, I really don't care. Nerd for life, singer for life. Kids think I sing opera. The money was worth every penny. The one was the only one.
This is from a short story I wrote. It's the first chapter, and it's called Happiness. She woke up one day to roses. They lay on the doorstep, smelling as sweet as, well, roses. Soft petals rubbed the flowery aroma onto her hands as she put them in a green glass vase. They were then plopped contentedly on her breakfast table as she swept into the kitchen to make breakfast. An omelet, perhaps? Her kitchen, like much of her house, was quaint and full of pastels. Grabbing ingredients left and right, she began to form her omelet. Her blonde hair swept out in luxurious circles as she spun from one spot to the next. Laughter was met in the air with the smell of pepper and eggs and potatoes cooking on the stove. While her omelet cooked, she danced around the kitchen to a song someone was playing in the streets. Before she knew it, the omelet was almost done. She flew into a whirlwind of action, grabbing a plate here, a fork there, throwing some orange juice in a glass, tossing the juice back in the fridge, then stopping. Just in time to toss the omelet on a plate, unburnt, and slide into a chair. Fork at the ready. Smile on her face and a little out of breath, she took a bite. Leaning against the window, she saw the square starting to fill up. Vendors were setting up stands, people were milling about talking, laughter and music rose up to her ears as she enjoyed her omelet. The flavors were melding deliciously in her mouth. She took another bite, then she promptly fell over, dead.
So this is an abridged version of my short story. The following are diary entries written by a Miss Patricia Kenyon, chronicling her numerous escape attempts from Mount Massive Psychiatric Hospital. Attempt number 12. Now go burn on shelf in living room. While the janitor's distracted, I take his keys. Hide until nighttime, then make my way outside and climb the fence. Failure. While attempting to sneak down the hallway, my fellow inmate Veronica yelled greetings. I was sucked into a 30-minute discussion on the logistics of earthworms and caught by security guards. I obtained a metaphorical soundboard / best friend, aka deadweight. Attempt number 23. Paraglide out of hallway bay window using bed sheets and toilet plungers. Land on a vending machine conveniently stationed next to said window and fight off guard dogs using newly coined plunger glider. Failure. The plunger glider is not an effective weapon against German shepherds. I obtained an amazing name for a band and an uncomfortable hatred for dogs. Attempt number 33. Knock out 2 security guards and steal their uniforms. Using our superior acting skills, Veronica and I will walk out of the institution. Failure. Veronica cannot act. I obtained an ever-dwindling list of besties' good qualities and 2 security guard uniforms. Attempt number 33 and a half. Make a run for it and pray the guards outside have not been noticed. Failure, those gosh darn German shepherds. I obtained canine saliva and another R-rated discussion with the dogs. Attempt number 100. Flood the asylum by placing hamburger buns in toilets. Clog the sink drains with extra shirts. Ride out on a sea of victory and various other fluids. Failure, sinking an entire building is easily detected as well as deterred. I obtained soggy clothes, a disgusted Veronica, and a newfound appreciation for plumbers. Attempt number 117. Hoard meat from the cafeteria to deter German shepherds. Utilizing the extinguishers found during several previous failures, spray at any guards who attempt to detain. Just walk out like a champion. It was a success, a sweet, dog-free success. I obtained freedom and a slightly crazy fugitive friend.
Okay, so I did, instead of a movie adaptation from a book, I tried to look if I can turn it around and make a writing adaptation from a movie. So I choose Lion King, because we all know that, to see if it worked. Little roar, puh, I said. I don't have a little roar. I'm the prince. I'm born to be a king with a mighty roar. I don't need practice, was my first thought when Uncle Scar was outside. You wouldn't understand. He's never going to be a king. I wonder if he can even roar. Not like my dad anyway. I wonder what my dad planned for me. Scar said it was something to die for. While I was thinking about what it could be, a chameleon jumps from a tree beside me onto the stone I was laying on. He ignores me completely and just walks down. How fun would it be to scare him to death? I will show Scar that my roar is not little. I breathed in and let him hear my cry. But it was not as loud as I expect, and the chameleon just ignores it. I become so angry. My cry may not be as loud as my dad's, but you can't just ignore me. I jump up and land at the feet of the stone, right next to the chameleon. I tried to do it again. It was just as loud as previous time. Dang. And he ignores me again and just keeps walking. Anger rages inside me. I will show him you can't ignore me. I jump behind him, hold my face close to him, and I roar! It's the loudest roar I've ever made, and he jumps and runs away in fear. All the anger disappeared, and pride took its place. The sound of my roar echoes through the canyon, and I listen proudly. But soon I hear another sound. It becomes stronger, and the ground under my feet starts shaking. My heart starts beating faster, and I hear scared birds. I look up at them, and what I see makes my heart stop. Dust flies up while thousands, if not millions of wild beasts run down the hill into the canyon. My ears lay against my head as instincts take over. I must go, or I will die. They will trample me. For a moment, I stand paralyzed with fear, only looking at the running herd. Then I move. I run as fast as I can to the opposite direction, try to stay in front of them. But my legs are too small. Even while I run for my life, I can't stay up front. I almost slip, and they come closer. I look behind me, and I see that their hooves can almost hit me. If one hoof stands on me, it will all be over. I keep running, but slowly they pass me. They run around me, and I try to avoid the passing wild beasts. Suddenly, I see an old dead tree that reaches just far enough above the wild beasts. I run towards it as fast as I can. I feel the hooves of the wild beast almost hit me. I jump, and I climb onto the dead tree that starts shaking wildly now I'm on it. I almost fell off when a wild beast hit the tree while passing it. I put my legs around the dangling tree while the wild beast passed and hit the tree. It shakes wildly, and I hear a crack. It won't last long, and if it breaks, I'll be dead.
All right, my name's Nick, and my piece is called Summer Morning. I tried to capture my perfect summer morning at my cousin's cottage. I opened my eyes and sit up. The cold sleeping bag feels cool on my arms as the rough fabric attempts to draw me back in. I unplug my phone, put some shorts on, and unzip the front door. I step out into the hands of nature as the cool morning air and sunshine hit me simultaneously. I make my first careful step into the grass as the damp blades surround my toes. I turn around to zip the tent close. The morning dew soothes my dry hands. I begin my walk around the side of the cottage as I step carefully along the painfully prickly crabgrass. From around the side, the lake comes into view. It looks as smooth as glass. The willows on the northeast corner shelter the cove from the harmful hands of the wind. The sun blazes over the water as the steam slowly rolls delicately off of it. My feet become chilled, touching the frigid slate pieces leading up to the water. Just beyond the slate pieces, the dock provides a warm refuge. The sun peaks above the trees on the eastern corner of the lake as it warms my cool skin. The dock creaks and groans as I journey further and further out onto it. The recently warmed wood heats my feet from the bottom up. Despite my movement, the water remains crystal clear. I can see the fish swim below the surface, but my presence is unimportant to them. I make my way over to the rowboat, although I feel contradicted, disrupting the elegantly calm water. I step in while being supported by the strong rowboat. The glazed wood reflects the sun in my eyes occasionally, but I don't mind because the bourbon-colored oak looks so marvelous. The wobbling of the rowboat creates a small, evenly spaced ripples that diffuse across the surface of the water. I grab the warm paddles and feel the heat expand through my hands. I move my arms slowly as I maneuver away from the dock. The paddleheads dip into the perfectly calm water as I venture out into the cove. I continue paddling into the great expanse of water as the sun climbs higher and higher into the sky.
Thanks. All right, that's fine. right, so this is a satire piece I wrote in class. All right, so businesses these days are wasting their time. They are successful, yes, but they are just making their products that are completely worthless and no one will buy them. They just care about the quality and the money they are making. Oh, but it's okay because they have a right to worry about the money they are earning. They should just care about what the products look like. If they improve the looks of it, then more people would buy them. Not to mention that more businesses than none are going out of business because they aren't pleasing the people. Technology. Technology is another issue with some people. Some of the products they are making, not enough people are buying them. Sometimes they take too long to make their freaking product. For example, I ordered something from online and it took longer than it was predicting. It finally came a month later. Oh, it's food businesses too. Their quality on their food can just look like something they just threw together in a matter of seconds. This is a wake-up call. It needs to be better.
This was up, yeah. There was a man that I used to admire, I no longer do, called Rick Schneider. You may have heard of him. I liked him as a politician because of how he was able to fix the economy and stuff like that, but in recent events, you learn that fiscal responsibility doesn't matter, it's ethical responsibility. But since there's two sides to every story, I figured I might as well give him the benefit of the doubt and come up with the top 10 excuses for Rick Schneider's scandal in Flint, Michigan. And by the way, I was going to do this in Rick Schneider's voice, but I left the helium balloon in the car. Sorry for that. Okay, number 10. Mary Kilpatrick thinks I'm innocent, and give me one reason you shouldn't trust a guy in prison in Detroit named Kill. Number 9. I'm a history nerd. I wanted to bring back colored drinking fountains. Number 8. It's healthy to have some minerals in your water. Number 7. My friend and I had a bet over what qualifies as a natural disaster. Number 6. Just pretend it's iced tea. 5. Come on, you don't like metal in your water. Your town's named after a metal. 4. People were so upset with Obama and gun control, I thought people would love me if I pumped them full of lead. 3. People wanted me to be president, and the best way to be a good president is to frequently speak with Congress. 2. That's a joke. He didn't really speak with Congress. 2. If we make our water bad enough, California will stop asking us for it. 1. I wanted something to be in the news aside from Donald Trump.
Hi, I'm Riley. I wrote a poem called Past Tense Daydreams. His smile captivated her more than anything else. It could stop spinning clocks and freeze the orbit of the earth to make everything still. All living things stopped to gaze, with no other sounds other than breath. His eyes left her breathless. Her favorite color was the color of the turquoise seas, and the seas were infused and blended into his irises. The dust that composed the heavily cratered moon was compacted into silver flecks that now danced around his pupils. Looking into them was staring into an eternal fantasy. Watching his face was like watching the morning sun, bright and full of life. His cheeks stretched from ear to ear when he smiled, and the universe was jealous of the freckles sprinkled on his cheeks because they are more beautiful than the stars in her galaxies that twinkled and gave butterfly kisses at night. She longed more and more every day to touch and gaze upon the collection of constellations upon his face. She watched his every move, how that freckled nose crinkled when he smiled, how he grazed his soft, messy hair with his bony fingers, the way he sipped on cold beverages, the way he laughed and talked like a god. He was just an ordinary human being, but to her, every crevice of his body was filled with perfection. To her, every fiber of his being was enlightened with some sort of exceeding excellence. To her, every aspect and inch of his living existence was beautiful. To her, he was nothing but art.
So mine's a kind of a festive poem. It's called Help Wanted. Christmas Eve, kids are waiting in bed with thoughts of presents in their head. However, many people don't know how Santa gets his toys, things like dollhouses, bicycles, and cowboys, so I'm here to tell you. Santa stepped on the roof with a crunch, down the chimney to eat his cookies with a munch. Leaving gifts for good girls and boys, little Jimmy awoke to Santa's noise. Santa saw the boy wasn't asleep. You're coming with me, you little creep, Santa said. You should have stayed in bed. The little boy was screaming and crying. For all he knew, he was dying. But that's not what Santa had planned. He sat the boy down and tied the sleigh to his hand. Some say Santa forced him to make toys for all the good girls and boys.
This is a short story piece I wrote called The War Zone. That's when the grenade exploded. Most nearby had scrambled for cover, attempting to avoid the effects of the blast. Those that didn't tumbled to the ground, losing consciousness or instantly perishing. Soon after, survivors began dropping like flies. It didn't take long for them to realize that the grenade had been special. The thrower had loaded it with poison gas. Moaning filled the air, escaping the throats of those still clinging to life. No one had been prepared. They expected a fight and received a massacre. There was only one who managed to preserve his life. He had been posted next to the long window, through which he made a daring escape. The poison never reached his lungs. Others were not so lucky. "I'm sorry," the survivor whispered, staring out the window from a safe distance. He saluted, a single tear sliding down his cheek. It was an honor to have known all of you. After a moment of painful silence, he dropped his arm and slowly walked away, refusing to look back. And that is when the teacher walked into the classroom. "What on earth are you guys doing?" A student points. Jimmy farted.
I just need to point out that Zach is not the last one. You can go ahead and get it up. But Emma walked in. And I didn't see the others did know or not. So. Okay. So anyway, well, there's one other after Zach. And then Gary.
All right, so first off, I want to point out that most people took their writing pieces very seriously. I did not. So hopefully that won't affect you at all. Okay. Ghastly wind slammed my front door open, almost taking it off its hinges. I stood petrified like one of those silver-painted human statues in a major city. My jaw almost hit the floor. Thoughts ran through my mind like bullets through the barrel of a gun. Although my mind was at Mach 10, time moved like molasses. The mind is a strange thing, forcing you to forget all things tragedy, or at least try to. I wish this was one of those cases. I could actually paint you a picture of this scene that Pablo Picasso would be jealous of. I shook like a wet dog when the tenant made his grand appearance. His eyes were as cold as ice, so cold I actually shivered. I refused to make further eye contact, afraid of what I'd see in them. I knew Mr. Tenant was angry. I didn't know the extent of his anger. We'll get to that point eventually. Hold your horses. The message was received before it was even spoken. He said the magic words, "Your rent is overdue." Every part of my body clenched up. My hair stood on end. I knew I was in trouble. I had no leg to stand on. I figured I'd just take the verbal beating. It sounded better than the physical that I was expecting. I don't remember exactly what he had said, but I was shocked when he said he kissed his mother with that mouth. I told him if I kept asking the bank for loans, my credit would go straight to the toilet. Genuine human kindness held no authority here. I was caught between a rock and a hard place. So I told the tenant what he wanted to hear, that he'd get his money by the end of the day. He left my abode with a smug grin across his face. There were burn marks actually etched into the tile from where he stood. Tufts of smoke sputtered from his ears. Once I had won the lottery, the entire world would be in my hands. I just had to find the golden ticket.
So this is Emma Hans.
I wrote some advice called To My Friends Who Worry About Being Mean. Lately, my friends have worried that they're too mean to their characters. They worry that it's cruel to take their main character and torture her, or kill her parents, or let her brother betray her, or push her onto the edge of death. For this, I have simple advice. Characters are meant to be tortured. If you're not hurting your characters, what are you doing writing? Pain is conflict. Conflict is story. You don't go to the library to pick up the book without conflict and sit and read for 4 hours about some perfect person's most perfect day in their perfect little life. I don't think you want to spend months writing that either. People love stories of conflict. Conflict is messy. So is life. Real, ordinary people can relate to conflict because nobody's life is perfect. Conflict makes things exciting and stressful and worthwhile and worthless. It breaks you so you can build the new and improved version of yourself. Without conflict, we never get to meet our true selves because we were never pressured into searching through our inner landscape for something beautiful. When an author pressures a character, they're really just challenging them to better themselves. And the only way to pressure a character is to create conflict. Conflict inspires change in characters, in plot, and setting. What is a story without change? Even the overrated Disney movie Frozen involves change. Despite the claims in the movie's song Fixer Upper about how people don't really change, Elsa changes throughout the story. At first, she lacks confidence in herself and her abilities, but through her inner conflict and conflict with her sister, she changes. She realizes she can trust herself and let herself be loved. Professional authors all know that stories require change. Alan Watts says in his book, The 90-Day Rewrite, the purpose of a story is to reveal a transformation. He then goes on to explain that at the heart of every story is the main character's dilemma, and this dilemma can only be resolved through a shift in perception. The only way to force a character to shift his perception is through conflict. If there was no conflict, there would be nothing between the character and his goal. If there was no conflict, there wouldn't even be a dilemma. Therefore, there would be no story. When I talk about conflict, I don't necessarily mean a fight to death or a torture sentence. Conflict comes in many forms. It can be the heroine's interior debate over which road to take. It could be a strained relationship between her and her family, or competition among coworkers for a promotion. It can be the horrific acts committed by the relentless villain. And yes, it can be the physical torture of the main character. These conflicts are not anything bad. They're useful writing tools that can push the character towards resolving their dilemma. So if you're writing, don't shy away from conflict just because you feel you might be too mean. Instead, ask yourself what pressure the conflict will add to the main character and how it can change him. Then rest easy knowing that this conflict is for the better. Remember, your characters need you to hurt them.
That's all she wrote. I really thank you again. Thank you for being here and for supporting your kids. And we'll see you kids tomorrow.
Thank you very much.